I want to start this off by saying wanting privacy does not make you a criminal. It's your right to have privacy. So that does not at all make you a criminal. What's up, family? Welcome to this episode of Stack Sats or Die Trying. This is the Bitcoin Show brought to you by the Hood. This is episode 12. Well, what's that? Johnny Dawkins, for those, of a certain age, you know what that is. Anyway, welcome to the show brought to you by the Hood. We talk about everything Bitcoin, not crypto, Bitcoin. I'm Jimmy, your host as always, you dig? Let's get right into it. You guys know that there's always something going on in Bitcoin. So I got a quick show for you this week. For those listening to the audio, salute to you. All the great feedback is appreciated, man. Keep the feedback coming. And I know I got a couple messages about people wanting consultations. Shoot me an email, buythehoodllc@gmail.com. Don't forget the LLC, buythehoodllc@gmail.com. And we can get into, talking about a consultation if you want some help setting up your wallets or just having an understanding. I am available for that. Also, we do have a private group known as MDC Strategy. The link for that is in the show notes as well as the description. But I want to get right into the presentation. I have a presentation for you guys to talk about, some of the things happening in Bitcoin. And I think this is something we have to talk about. As I said in the beginning, wanting privacy does not make you a criminal. So there's some interesting news and things going on in the world of Bitcoin. The title of this episode is called, Is Wanting Privacy with Your Bitcoin a Crime? Kind of already answered that in short form, but let me let you guys know what I'm thinking as I pontificate about Bitcoin this week. So, as always, this is not investment advice. I am not telling you about Bitcoin or anything else. It's for educational and informational purposes only. I come on every Monday to share just my thoughts and, and just ramble to you guys about Bitcoin. But this week has been interesting. The first thing that I think I need to start in this having this discussion, because we're going to talk about Samurai Wallet, what happened with Samurai Wallet this week, but is what the definition of an actual crypto mixing service is. Because I know some of you guys have been in the space for a long time and you know what this is, but we have a lot of new people who are just getting into the space and they may not have ever heard of a mixing service. So a crypto mixing service, also known as a crypto tumbler, is designed to obfuscate the source of cryptocurrency funds. It works by combining funds from multiple users and then sending them back to different addresses, making it difficult to trace the origin of coins. So basically, a simplified way to put this is, let's say that, three people have 20, let's say three people have $100 bills, right? And we all walk to this one individual. We give the individual our $100 bills. He does whatever he does. And he gives us all back $100 bills. We don't know where it came from. It's mixed at that point. There are services designed to do this within the crypto and specifically the Bitcoin space. And just to add a little bit more to it, while some people use crypto mixers for legitimate reasons, such as protecting their financial privacy, they could, however, be used for illegal activities like money laundering. Now, the amount that's used for money laundering, that's debatable, but just understand that that's how some people look at it. They look at it as though people just money laundering, not understanding that privacy doesn't make you a criminal, right? So it's important to be aware of the risk involved before using a mixing service because they can be unreliable and may even steal your funds. Additionally, using a crypto mixer may be illegal depending upon your jurisdiction. So again, this is not investment advice or telling you to do anything. Understand the rules around whatever jurisdiction you may be in. And it's really important to understand that when you see some of the things that have happened this week in the world of Bitcoin. Here's an article from Cointelegraph. It says FBI warning against crypto money transmitters appeared to be aimed at mixers. So this is why I started off by explaining what a mixer is, but a recent FBI announcement urging Americans not to use unlicensed money transmitting services misses a great deal of nuance about how crypto services operate, says Piper Alderman, who's a partner at Michael Bancina. On April 25th, the co-founders of Bitcoin Wallet and crypto mixing service Samurai Wallet were arrested on charges of money laundering. Samurai Wallet's CEO, Keon Rodriguez, and CTO, William Hill, were charged with money laundering and operating an unlicensed money transmitting business and currently face a maximum sentence of up to 25 years in prison. interesting, right? I'm gonna stop here for a second. What's interesting about this is them calling Bitcoin money, right? So previous government agencies have said Bitcoin is a commodity. Now they're calling it a money. So that's just an interesting, piece of information right there. Because how can you be operating? How can you be charged with money laundering if we're not even talking about money, right? Excuse me. So understand they're calling it money. So we'll build on that. Michael Balsina, the digital asset partner at Piper Alderman. Again, remember in the beginning I said Piper Alderman partner, Michael Balsina. Yes, the same guy. Anyway, Michael Balsina, digital asset partner at Piper Alderman lawyers, told Cointelegraph that the FBI's announcement seemed to be directed at warning users against using crypto mixing services, but noted that the broad warning missed much of the finer details. He says, while this appears an attempt to warn consumers away from smart contract-driven privacy tools like Samurai or Tornado Cash, it's a very broad warning which misses a great deal of nuance in how decentralized systems operate. In its announcement, the FBI wrote that it had recently conducted law enforcement operations against cryptocurrency services that were not licensed in accordance with federal law, adding that anyone using unlicensed services could encounter financial disruptions during law enforcement actions, particularly if the money is intermingled with illegally obtained funds. The FBI recent warning to Americans from using unregistered cryptocurrency money transmitting services might be aimed at smart contract-driven privacy tools. So anyway, just the last part is important. In an April 25th public service announcement, the FBI urged Americans only to use registered cryptocurrency money services in businesses that comply with existing KYC, know your customer, and AML, anti-money laundering laws. What does that mean in short? Services such as Coinbase, Gemini, even the Bitcoin One, Swan, Strike, that force you to hand over your ID. So what does this mean? It means that they want to be able to see who's buying what and doing what. There are a lot of services that don't require this. In fact, a lot of us have bought Bitcoin at vending machines where you don't have to give any KYC or AML. So this is kind of an attack on privacy. It's a kind of an attack on privacy. And the reason I thought this was interesting to bring to episode 12 was because I know this scared a lot of people. And how do I know that? Because my phone was going off. Like, hey, what does this mean? Blah, blah, blah. Is this the end of Bitcoin? And I guess the biggest point that I want to make in this episode as I read through these articles is Bitcoin is built to be attacked, right? All it does is make everything stronger. The network still survives. All of these attacks on Bitcoin, and again, if you go back to previous episodes, Bitcoin is resilient. And its resilience is consistently tested by things of this nature, by bad actors in terms of exchanges doing what they do. So to me, this is an interesting story. It's interesting to watch out for, but it's also something to be careful of, right? Getting into another article, right? This is from Forbes. Forbes says Samurai indictment on an FBI notice are an assault on Bitcoin and privacy by Roger Wang. So it says, as of the last 2 days, the Department of Justice has indicted the founders of Samurai Wallet, which provide an interface for the Whirlpool mixing pool and allow for a degree of privacy by mixing transactions on layer 1 Bitcoin. The FBI also issued a warning for Americans against self-custody assets on Bitcoin. So I'll read a couple more parts of this article. All the articles that I mentioned in this episode, I will put a link to the specific articles within the show notes and the description. For those listening to the audio, I'm reading enough to just give you context of what I'm talking about. But this is the article from Forbes. It goes on to say the attack on Samurai Wallet used many of the tools of the state, from App Store takedowns, which is a popular tactic embraced by the Chinese Communist Party to enforce its walled garden internet. Think about that. This is happening here. Management of domain space to physical extradition, and what was a frontal assault not only on businesses building on Bitcoin, but digital privacy and self-custody itself. What was alarming is that access to Whirlpool isn't a good criminal tool. So the point this writer is making is that when you look at what they're attacking, this really isn't a great tool for criminals anyway. This action was set into motion even though only 5% of activity in the mixer could be attributed to criminal activity. The rest of the 95% was treated as suspect just for trying to enforce more privacy over one's transactions for a tool that wasn't designed for large-scale criminal inflows, but rather as a privacy-enhancing layer, right? So what it's saying is only 5% can be attributed to what you're calling it overall. So now you're attacking just regular individuals who are just looking for privacy to chase the 5%. Also, the article goes on to say this was part of a larger drive towards undoing digital privacy and giving citizens less control and power that doesn't just stop at financial transactions. A similar KYC proposal is being considered for anyone who uses cloud computing infrastructure in the United States, ostensibly to protect from foreigners scaling nefarious AI models on US-based infrastructure. Heads of national security have asked for access to end-to-end encrypted communications in a constant push to create backdoors to internet privacy and security. And the United States ended up passing a clean reauthorization of FISA Section 702, warrantless digital surveillance that has in the past been used to spy on Americans for political means. So although some people are looking at this as, man, that's just an attack on a digital currency, it is a slippery slope, and it's something that we have to pay attention to, as Americans, right? How much of our freedoms are we giving away? We're talking about code here. Code should be protected as freedom of speech. And, we're using these sayings like this is used for criminals when you can't even point to. So if 5%, if they've come out and said only 5% of this is used for criminal activity, how much of banking is used for criminal activity? Just think about it, right? I'm not saying, first of all, I want to be careful on what I say on these episodes too, because I do want to share information. I do want to have conversations. I do want people to think a different way. But one of the things I know is, in the words of Sean Carter, the streets is watching, man. You got to be careful what you say on Beyonce's internet. And, we'll talk about that a little bit later in this episode, because I just want to, educate and make people aware and have conversations. That's my whole aim. But I do understand that people can manipulate the things that you say and make it appear that you're saying something that you didn't. I've had that experience with media taking my words and I reread it in the article and say, I didn't even say that. So I know how things can be manipulated. And I'm not trying to sound like real conspiracy theorist, but a lot of times we live our life and we just go by day to day and we don't think that some of these things can happen to you, or some of these things are actually happening. You think that people are exaggerating, but yeah, it's real out here, man. It's a war going on. No man is safe from. Listen, and also, last part I want to put about this is this, right? As it pertains to Samurai Wallet specifically, right? And, let's talk about it now. One of the problems that I believe personally, this is just Jimmy Williams. No one's telling me how to think. I'm just looking at all the players in this specific situation, and I'm on Twitter, you know what I'm saying? And, so I'm on a lot of the social media sites that a lot of Bitcoiners, spend time on. And Samurai Wallet, I follow them on socials, and they kind of talk greasy to government entities often. They taunted them, they talk crazy to them, and here's a good example of that, which was actually in the DOJ's criminal complaint. They had screenshots of this. So from the Samurai Wallet account, they were just jokingly poking fun, saying, welcome new Russian oligarchs to Samurai, telling Samurai Wallet users to welcome the new Russian oligarchs who were trying to avoid financial sanctions. And they would do stuff like this often. And again, I'm not trying to blame them for being attacked, because again, freedom of speech is freedom of speech, but you also have to understand these folks is watching. And I know a lot of times we look at governments and government entities as being this big thing that's over here. And it's just a system, and we kind of look at it as being something separate. But let's be honest, government entities are run by people, and people have feelings, and people get emotional. So when you are outwardly taunting them with some of the things that you're doing, it may be cool and funny for you in the short term, but you're pissing people off, and they will find a way to get you, right? And again, I'm not blaming them, because again, I do believe that it's about privacy, but I also believe in being honest and telling people, yo, be careful with some of the things that you say online, right? I'm online like everybody else. I like laughing at memes and things of that nature, but I'm not outwardly taunting any entity or big thing. And some people say, man, you know what I mean? Don't be pussy. You got to be out here. No, man, like be smart. Be smart. You know what I'm saying? I know a lot of gangsters in real life. And when I say gangsters, I'm not talking about people that carry guns. I'm talking about people that carry pens. I know people that carry guns too, and they have zero power in comparison to the people I know that carry pens. People that carry pens are playing a whole different ball game. And we got to be careful when you on the internet just talking crazy and reckless. When you're open to being attacked in the way they were attacked. So I guess my message overall in this episode is understand that wanting privacy in itself is not a crime. I do believe that they were done dirty when you look at the actual numbers, the data. The data is most people aren't using this for illegal activities. But if I'm being objective and being honest, it still doesn't mean that you sit out there because you have a product and or service that can offer this privacy to people that you taunt, government agencies and the quote unquote system. You don't talk crazy because, I mean, it is what it is, man. And that's just my opinion. I know a lot of people will like not agree with me in that, but some people will understand where I'm coming from in terms of being smart, right? You got to be smart out here, man. With that being said, though, another article from Bitcoin News, which I think is relevant to this topic, is because sometimes when situations like this happen, you see price affected. And it's an article from Bitcoin News, which says that Bitcoin volatility is a feature, not a flaw. It's essential for its long-term value and resistance to manipulation. This is by Connor Chepenik, and shout out to Connor. I thought this was a great article, so I wanted to share a part of it, and I will put the link to this within the show notes as well. And what he says is Bitcoin's volatility, the extreme price swings that critics view as a major drawback, preventing it from being a viable currency or store of value, is actually a feature inherent to this revolutionary, decentralized digital money. It's not a bug. Free markets can be messy. While double-digit percentage moves in Bitcoin's value on a daily or weekly basis can be undoubtedly settling, this volatility is a small price to pay for having a truly permissionless, scarce, and decentralized form of money that stands as a superior long-term store of value compared to endlessly inflated fiat currencies. So he says when you measure Bitcoin's true value, when you measure it in fiat currencies like dollars, it's akin to gauging a house's size with a constantly changing tape measure. What's a bar right there? Shout out to Connor, right? And it's an imperfect and flawed way to judge Bitcoin's true value, while some fiat currencies like the US dollar are more stable than others, like the Argentine peso or Venezuelan bolivar. They all share the critical flaw of being constantly inflated and debased by unchecked money printing by central banks. Now, he added more bars to this article. Like I said, I'll share the whole thing, but I think this part is important. So when you look at the volatility of Bitcoin, you're like, man, that thing is going up, because you can actually see it because it's honest. You don't see when your money is being debased. When you go to the market or when you go to get gas, you know that your money has been debased, but you don't see it in real time. So it's easy to compare the two and say one is stable and one isn't, when in actuality, neither one of them are stable, right? Because is your dollar actually stable if it can buy you less when you leave the house? How stable is that? It's just that you don't see it in immediate. So this is the tricknology that they play with you. When you think that my dollar is stable because $1 is $1, well, guess what? One Bitcoin is one Bitcoin. That's a fact. Fact though, as Troy Ave used to say. Fact though, like one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin. $1 is $1. Now, what they can buy, that changes on a daily basis, but we tend to see that with Bitcoin, but we don't really appreciate that as it pertains to our fiat currencies. So we are still early. One of the messages that I want to communicate through StackSats at Dot Trying is just how early we are, because people don't believe we're early because they're looking at a price over 60K and they say, Jimmy, how can we be early? Listen, man, here's what I'll tell you. When you look at the evolution of the cell phone, this is where we are. We are the Nokia snake phone. That's where we're at. We ain't nowhere near iPhone yet. You know what I'm saying? We ain't got to the Trio. We ain't got to the Sidekick. Yo, shout out to all the old phones from back in the day. Yo. How many of y'all had a Sidekick or a Trio? You know what I'm saying? Like those was fire back then. That was before iPhones, before Galaxies and all that. But this is where we are. We're at the Nokia stages right now. And I know it's hard to believe, but as I consistently put together the content for these shows, I'm looking forward to, a couple years from now and revisiting some of the things that I say when I say we're early, because y'all, listen, man, Sean Jacobs, who's a great artist of our time, said you got to plan for the future because you figure you're going to be older way longer than you're going to be younger. So, and that's the key to life. Money, power, respect. My fault. Y'all know who Sean Jacobs is. Others know him as Sheik Luch. But the point he makes in that specific bar, and the point that I'm making here is, you may have missed the last 5 years, but don't miss the next 5 years. I repeat that, Dr. Umar style. You may have missed the last 5 years, but don't miss the next 5 years. I don't think you heard me. You may have missed I'm joking. You may have missed the last 5 years, but don't miss the next 5 years. Don't let that go over your head. The point I'm making is we are still early in this revolutionary currency, what it's doing to markets and what it means to the world. So just stay tuned, stay locked in the stack, sats or die trying. As things happen within the space, I'll try to report on them, give you my perspective. Again, this is just my perspective. You may go out there and read other articles that have a different perspective, because some are just very sympathetic to Samurai Wallet. And I totally get that. But I also understand that you can't be out here taunting your ops, because you just can't do that. Quick story real fast, right? I'll put my Bitcoin is King portrait up as I tell the story. When I first got into Bitcoin, one of the things I wanted to do was learn and meet people who knew more than I did. So I used to go to a lot of Bitcoin meetups, right? And what was interesting about the early days in going to meetups is there was like a certain level of people that would be there that were like anarchists. They were just like anti-government, pull down the government doesn't work. And these were the people that were into Bitcoin. So I don't go to meetups all the time, but then what happens is as time goes on, I went to a meetup in 2024. It's a different audience. There are people who are everyday working people, millionaire next door types who are looking to just store some of their value. You got actual bankers, people that work for the big companies, the JP Morgans, you know what I'm saying? Like the Morgan Stanleys. It's a whole, you still got a small sect of your total anarchist type folks, but you have a lot of different individuals who are into the space who all contribute to the network in one way or another, whether that's running the actual software or whether that's just teaching or whether that's just learning and, kind of just building on what this network is that we call Bitcoin. Again, when you go back to previous episodes and you see me talk about it being a protocol, and big B and little b and the difference and the power of the actual network, you'll have a better understanding of what I mean by this. But the fact is, those anarchists exist within this space, and it's not that everything they say is wrong, but I think that the great part about Bitcoin being revolutionary is it's a peaceful revolution. It's digital, you know what I mean? But I think you still have to be smart in how you treat Bitcoin, because some will say I'm not even smart by doing this show because I'm talking too much. But I feel it's important to communicate and educate what I'm seeing in the space with our audience, people that look like me, and give my specific perspective. And again, it's just my perspective, and my perspective comes from, bring back some more lock stuff. I'm living off experience. I have my own experiences. I have my own life that I've lived. And those experiences help me to formulate ideas and opinions based upon the information that I intake. So other people may feel different, but where I come from, taunting someone ain't cool. You know what I'm saying? It's not illegal, but it's not cool. And you got to be careful when you taunt someone, right? Because when you taunt someone, you can't tell them how to respond to your taunts. And that's not, I want to make sure I put this on the record too. I am not victim blaming. I'm not coming at Samurai, but I come from a place where you just don't do that. And I was raised that way. And, so you can't tell someone how to clap back at you. And, that's what happened here. But my overall theme is privacy in itself isn't illegal, right? I have freedoms. My privacy in itself is not illegal. And I want to make sure I put that on the record, because I see what's going to happen long term. It might be a fight over self-custody itself, with me being able to control the value the way I always talk about on every episode. Is that a future fight? That is something to think about. How will governments operate? And also understand that this is not going to be completely peaceful in a sense that this isn't the first attack, and it's not the last attack, but the resilience is what makes it more powerful. Because every time Bitcoin is attacked and it comes out on the other side, all that does is make it more and more powerful, and it makes me want to stack more and more sats. So to me, this may seem as though it's a bad thing, but to me, believe it or not, this is a good thing, because every time Bitcoin is able to withstand an attack, I am putting my toes down even further, and I am fully understanding that it is what it is. I'm here to stay, man. So I just want to, bring those bars to you guys, let you guys know what I'm thinking as it pertains to what's going on with Samurai, share some information that maybe you never heard about what happened this past week, and that's cool too. I was on Reddit, right? Shout out to everybody from Reddit and the Bitcoin subreddit. I was on Reddit reading the subreddit, and someone said, "Yo, Bitcoin like podcasts and Bitcoin itself is boring, right?" And I was laughing as I read that, because I was like, it's kind of the point, right? People want investing, and I'm not even looking at this investing. I always told you before, Bitcoin to me is savings, not investing, and there's a difference between the two. But people, when it comes to any sort of financial instrument or things of that nature, are looking for excitement. And I had shout out to my brother Pass, man. I know Pass watches these episodes. Pass said something to me a couple years ago, and it's always stuck with me. And he was talking about trading, though. He was talking about the idea of learning to trade the markets and being efficient at trading markets. He said, when you get good at it, it's boring, and investing is boring. And that's always stuck with me, because it's true. When you really have a scarce asset and you buy it, it's boring. It's not about being excited every day, all day, right? Stacking sats sometimes can be boring, right? Because you figured out kind of a life hack. I'm just going to stack sats and let the time do itself. I'm saving time. It's not, what you see on social media, people all day. I'm in this market and I'm doing it. I'm stacking sats. When you understand the power of just buying the S&P 500 in the market and letting the market do what it's going to do, you find a great company. You've been buying Google or Amazon for the last 10 or 15 years, and you just consistently buy it. It gets boring, right? But that's the way investing should be. This isn't about excitement. Yo, go touch grass, go live life, stack sats and live life. It might be a sub pod of this pod. Stack sats and live life, because don't come here looking for excitement. You come here looking to change your life and your family's life. That's what this is about. It's not about constantly being excited. Anyway, man, hope you guys enjoyed this episode, man. I appreciate all the great feedback. Leave me some more comments. Hit me up on socials at JW the Blueprint on everything. Remember, you want consultations, buythehoodllc@gmail.com. I really, 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 really appreciate y'all, man, because the success of the show is what keeps me going, because it takes time to put the slideshows together. It takes time to do the research. Again, I have an opinion pretty much on everything going on in the world. I don't care if you talk with sports, you talking about the legal system, technology. One thing about me, I am going to have an opinion. So, excuse me, but the opinions, that's not a problem. But putting the slides together takes time. So I'm going to continue to do so, because I enjoy the feedback, the commentary, and the conversation that the people give. So I appreciate you. Next episode is, lucky episode 13. So remember, Wednesday, regular pod. Monday, Stack Sats or Die Trying. Friday is our live show where we give away Bitcoin every Friday. So pull up for the Friday episode. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. Remember, stack sats or die trying. Peace.